Cincinnati Reds, Terry Francona, the manager of the Cincinnati Reds now. We're all super excited about that, but we joked earlier. I was like, man, it kind of scares the hell out of me that Terry Francona is the manager of the Cincinnati Reds because obviously we know what the potential is with having a leader like Terry Francona. We've seen him do it in multiple markets. We've seen him, multiple World Series wins, multiple World Series appearances. He led the Guardians or the Indians back in 2016 to a World Series appearance. We had multiple World Series with the Boston Red Sox, and now he's here in Cincinnati. He's had success pretty much everywhere he's gone. I know that brief stop early in his career we didn't have a lot of good players, but he has good players here. But if you can't have success with Terry Francona in Cincinnati, that scares the hell out of me. Because if Terry Francona can't come in with a generational talent, like Jacob said earlier, with a generational talent like Elly De La Cruz, with solid young pitching, a guy in Hunter Green who just finished top 10 in the Cy Young voting, if you can't make the playoffs with Terry Francona as your manager, with just the base of those two players right there and the young talent that's around them, who can get it done? What else can this ownership group do if you can't find a way to succeed with Terry Francona? Terry Francona scares the hell out of me because if they succeed like he has everywhere else, that's great. But the pit in our stomachs, if he doesn't succeed, I don't know how we get past that because, like I said, we will feel so deflated, so defeated because if he can't get it done, who the hell else can do it? I don't know. I'm very interested by this 3-year, at the very least 3-year run. We hope he finishes out the contract. But man, oh man. So the more likely scenario I'm throwing out is, what is more likely? At the very least, the Reds getting a World Series appearance like what he has gotten out of his last 2 stops? Or is it more likely that the Reds don't reach the playoffs at all during the Francona run here in Cincinnati? What's more likely?
I think it's far more likely that the Reds don't make the playoffs than make the World Series. I was having a debate with my buddy Zach. And it was like if you had to give percentages out to different milestones for the franchise and franchises in the city, I think if you had to give a percentage of whether or not the Bengals are going to win a Super Bowl in our lifetime, I would say that number is probably like 50%.
Oh,
I think 48%, 40%.
Wow.
I think it's a high number. The Bengals win a Super Bowl. I do. The Reds winning a World Series, 1%. 3%? The max I'd go is 3%. Because the way I look at it is this: what are the odds the Bengals make another AFC Championship game? Like 75%?
No.
That's a high. You don't think it's 75% the Bengals?
I don't think it's even
in
close.
our lifetime.
I think the chance the Bengals win a Super Bowl in our lifetime is like 15 to 20%, and I think the chance they make it back to an AFC Championship is like 30 to 35%.
Oh, I thought you were going to be higher.
No, wow. I think it's much lower.
Okay.
I think it's very, very hard to get to a Super Bowl.
2 playoff wins, like that's just like to get to an AFC Championship game is so vastly easier.
I 100% agree with that.
Yeah.
I 100% agree with the overall point you're making. I just think the percentages are a little high.
Maybe, and it might be just a little skewed. But I do think if you have a good quarterback, your percentage is vastly higher than those teams who don't have it. And on top of all of that, I do think the Bengals organization over the past couple of years has been significantly better than it has been. Saying that, in baseball, it's just harder. It's harder to win. We led off the show talking about Juan Soto joining Shohei Ohtani, Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman, and the rest of the super team that is the Los Angeles Dodgers. And we're going to sit here and talk about TJ Friedl and Spencer Steer and say we're going to go win a World Series. It's not even in my brain. It's not even a thought in my head. Don't get me wrong. I say this all the time. I'm a bigger Reds fan than I'm a Bengals fan. I'm a massive Reds fan. But if you have to be realistic about it a little bit, the Reds have been one of the worst organizations in sports over the last 15, 20 years. 20 years, they've been bottom, 10 in sports? It's been close. It's close. Maybe not bottom 10, but it's pretty damn close. They don't win games. They don't make the playoffs. They don't win playoff games. So it's hard for me to sit here and say that Terry Francona is going to lead them to a World Series. I think they're going to have success. I think the Reds are going to be successful. But I think success for a team for a franchise, an organization like the Reds, is different than success for an organization like the Dodgers, who can pay for anybody they want, defer the payment to whenever they want, and get a super team. So I'm going to say it's more likely the Reds are going to miss the playoffs for the next 3 years than they are to get to a World Series. Even get to a World Series. Not even win a World Series, get to a World Series.
I think both of these have relatively the same odds of happening, and it's pretty low. I think Terry Francona is going to get this team to playoffs multiple times in the next 3 years. I firmly believe that. And if he doesn't, I don't know what that means for Reds fans, because this is the best core we're ever going to have with the best manager we're ever going to have. So I'm going to choose to say that it's more likely that he makes a World Series, because once you get in, you only got to win a few series to get there, which obviously is not very likely to happen. It's not very likely to happen. No, it's not. If I had to guess what happens with Terry Francona is in the next 3 years, we win 2 to 3 playoff series total.
Yeah?
I don't think he's going to miss the playoffs all 3 years. I just don't. I don't see that happening. And because I think he's going to make it more often than he doesn't, I think it's more likely he makes a run.
That's fair. It's a fair point. I don't, and this is, who said this in the chat? Anthony. Thank you, Anthony. We won't get to an NLCS. I agree. I don't think the Reds get to an NLCS. I don't see a world where they win a playoff series. It's just not in my brain. I think you're right. I believe it, and I certainly wouldn't be a Reds fan if I didn't believe it, that the Reds will make the postseason in the next couple of years, at least one time, God willing, one time. Reed keeps bringing in these projections. I forget which projection had the division, but it was the Cubs win the division with an 82 win record or an 83 win record, whatever the hell it was. It's like, if you can't win 88 games, what are we doing? 88 wins is not exactly a high bar to climb, especially in today's game. So I have optimism. I have hope that Terry Francona is going to be the guy that fixes this. We haven't had a World Series caliber manager since Dusty Baker. Dusty Baker was a World Series caliber manager, and guess what? He was damn good with the Reds. He didn't win a playoff series, but he got them there, and that's the first step. David Bell got the Reds to a COVID playoffs with respect. I don't even really count it. It's a skewed season, and it's 60 games. So I don't know what exactly we were to gain that year. I get the point where it's, well, every team has the same opportunity, yada, yada, yada. And that's true, certainly. If we have the opportunity to play for a World Series, I don't care how many games the season is. But without a doubt, it's not 162 games. So there's no way of knowing how good that team really was. I'd like to think they were good. The pitching certainly was. But we don't know how good the bats were. We don't know if the bullpen was going to be able to fix or have a solid back half of the season. We don't know. We don't know if anybody would have gotten hurt. There's no way of knowing anything. Saying that, Terry Francona, I believe he's going to make the playoffs. It's just far more likely, in my opinion, that he misses the playoffs all 3 years than make a World Series or win a World Series. God forbid he win a World Series.
It's created almost a separate sidebar conversation with this, too, because, Jake, you said it's super low that the reason I feel like the Bengals have a better chance, let's just put a 20-year window on it. If I had to put money on who has a better chance of winning a championship, the Bengals or the Reds over the next 20 years.
It's not even close.
It's not even the same.
It's not even in the same stratosphere.
No.
It's Bengals.
But like you made it sound like so low. You said the chances were low earlier, correct?
Lower than 50%. Like, I think the only team that has a 50% of winning a Super Bowl is the Chiefs. Like, I think everyone's percentage is lower than that. Sure, is what I'm saying.
No, but I gave my window was massive. My window was what? If I lived to
how many lifetimes did we just go without them not making it back to a Super Bowl?
It's a fair point. It's a fair point.
Like, I'm just saying, we have Joe Burrow for what, 5 more years on this contract? With the way it's trending this year, that's it with him.
Yeah.
So you're basically saying you have a 5-year window, and then you have the rest of your life to find another Joe Burrow.
Which I think the odds of that are pretty high. I think you could find a good quarterback. Maybe it wouldn't be. Maybe it's not the next cycle, but it could be.
Right. Well, 15, yeah. You have a lot. But I'm saying if in the lifetime window that is so big, you're throwing away a decade in the middle.
Yeah.
The window gets much smaller.
Certainly.
So I think the Bengals probably have this Joe Burrow window, and then in another lifetime they'll probably have one more window with an elite quarterback to try to win a Super Bowl. And we just got to cross our fingers that they get one in one of those windows. And I think that you never know what the future might hold. So it's just, it's Captain Obvious here, but obviously the Bengals' best chance to win a Super Bowl is right now with Joe Burrow.
It's just an easier path. The
NFL as a whole is an easier path.
It's a far easier. You win 4 games. 4 games. That's it. That's what it is. In baseball, you have to win how many games? Is that 12 games? 14 games, something like that. I don't know how many. I don't know what the number would be if you made the wild card. But it's just far more games you have to play. So it's unlikely.
Plus football, obviously vastly different. Yeah. But the NFL, it recycles teams so quickly. I know, it seems to be like the same teams at the top almost every year. Those are very well-run organizations. The Steelers, a bad year is 8 to 9 wins and an early exit in the playoffs, which they've had quite a few bad years by their standards as of late. They're hoping that standard is raised this season, of course. But, overall, we've seen how quickly. The Houston Texans have reset their franchise twice in less than a 7-year, 8-year window. They drafted Deshaun Watson. He turned into a Pro Bowl quarterback. They made the playoffs, got a playoff win. They lose him. They rebuild again. They get C.J. Stroud. Since then, they've won a division and won a playoff game. Like, it's the cycle to rebuild, if you will, is so much quicker and easier in the NFL, Major League Baseball. Plus, and look at the Bengals. You win 2 and 4 games back-to-back seasons. If you have 1-2 really good drafts, you're back like that.
It's because the draft set up so well.
Yeah. Well, shut up. Okay. So in baseball,
thank God.
In baseball, well, hold on. No. Hold on. I wasn't trying to fix the draft. I just hated incentivizing losing, but that's besides the point. We're all friends today. Let's not do that. Okay. Baseball, you have 1 or 2 good drafts. You don't reap the rewards of that for 2 or 3 years later if you're lucky with that. But either way, I think
do you think that'll change ever in Major League Baseball? Do you think they'll become, and it's hard because talent is so vastly different in baseball, but do you think it will become we start drafting guys and they play on opening day, something like that? I mean, obviously the seasons are not going to do that. So, but I'm saying I
think we're trending that direction.
I think we are too.
With how big Paul Skeens' boom was, I think they're going to start pushing for that more for the college guys, just because. Why did people attach themselves to Paul Skeens so much right when he started?
Yeah.
Because 8 months ago, they watched him win a College World Series.
Yep.
Like, that matters. Watching these guys play in the College Football Playoff and then go play in the NFL, just following guys, creating fandoms outside of your own team matters. And I think that's a big thing we always talk about with baseball, is we only watch the Reds for the most part.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of people don't watch the rest of the league, and I think part of that is because you can't follow guys all the way up through college. Like, a lot of the teams I watch in the NFL outside of the Bengals, other than like Red Zone and stuff, it's because they have Buckeyes or Alabama guys that I want to watch play. Sure. And that's just not the case in the MLB because you don't have any real connection to college baseball.
And I'm hoping it's just talent level too. Like, I'm hoping the talent is improving, and I think NIL, we talk so much, and I think we talked about this around the draft last year, so many times. I mean, like, you don't make a lot of money, and baseball's not getting a lot of attention money-wise, obviously, before NIL. So those guys quickly wanted to get out of college and quickly get to the minors. You're not making a ton of money there, but you're making money. Now, for some of these, baseball programs like Tennessee and others, they're giving out major NIL dollars to some of these college baseball players. And I think it's the incentive to stick around in college longer. You're being developed in college longer. You're getting more attention at a much higher level longer than going to the bottom of a farm system and just hoping that you can stand out amongst the many talents that are there. I think that plays a role in it too. Chase Burns too is another one. I'm excited to see what his trajectory is as far as how fast they sent him through the system. Will he start out in Dayton? We've talked about this as well. Does he start out in Dayton? Is he going to be right in Louisville right away? Will we see him next season in a Reds jersey at all? I don't know, but I'm hoping that for baseball's sake, more stars will be developed if they come out of college stars and are stars right off the bat in baseball. I think that's a huge win when it's all said and done. So,
no question about
Pittsburgh, no one gives a rip about Pittsburgh Pirates baseball, but Skeens made them relevant even though they're bad, and that's the importance of that. Skeens made them relevant. I want to see more of that in baseball.